Good morning. I'm Kenyon Gleason, and I work with Brad at the American Road and Transportation Builders Association. And I just want to take a couple of minutes to share some things with you about what's happening in the marketplace and about ways that, if you're interested at all, how you can get involved in some of the activities that we have going on at ARTBA. Sir, can I just do the clicker? Part of my responsibility at ARTBA is working with transportation officials across the country. We have a division called our Transportation Officials Division, and it includes a number of county engineers and a number of state DOT folks. I'm not sure what all DOTs are represented here, but a number of DOTs have already been involved and active in our division for a number of years. And so I just want to talk a little bit about who we are and some of the things that are happening in the market. We've got just over 5,000 members. We represent, obviously, the entire industry in the transportation construction sector, including contractors, design firms, the public sector. We've got equipment manufacturers, obviously the public officials I mentioned, educators, researchers, all sorts of folks in the traffic safety arena, which is why many of you are here today, obviously. And so we've got a broad federation-style association, and so we have an active base from all of these different groups helping us to form policy and help us advocate for the things that we want to get accomplished with the federal program in Washington. And so we've got a very broad, diverse group of people focused on a very narrow mission, and that mission is the transportation construction sector. Obviously in transportation, we're the second largest construction sector after home building, almost 100% publicly funded. We've got a lot of dedicated revenues coming from the vehicle taxes, the gas tax, and things like that. It tends to be a very stable revenue source, although, as you all know, there's just not enough of that stable revenue source right now to get the projects accomplished that we need to be having accomplished. And so we're working very hard in Washington to try to push folks toward getting the reauthorization passed. But as you know, probably as well as I do, the political climate in Washington right now is a very difficult climate, and we're working very hard. Let me just say that. The sweat is dripping, and I know the folks at AASHTO and others are working hard as well. Probably you've seen something familiar to this, but when you have roughly 44 to 45% of the transportation infrastructure investment coming from the federal government, it does create a big portion of what happens on a yearly basis. We've actually seen that grow now over the last year as many states have pulled back their budgets. The federal government's role in transportation infrastructure construction funding has grown even larger. Real quick on the market, obviously the last year, 2 years with the recession have been very difficult for a number of states. Fortunately, the federal government put forward the American Reinvestment Act, which put a number of people back to work and kept a number of people working that would otherwise have not had a job. And so you saw actually an increase in the overall market for 2009 as a result of those funds. We're still seeing the impact of that money this year, and we're looking forward, obviously, with still a degree of optimism and hope that we'll get the reauthorization passed this year, and we can still see these bar graphs continue to go up moving forward. That's a difficult climb and a difficult sled right now, and we need your help. And I'll talk about how you all can help here in just a few minutes. This pretty much says it all. As state revenue collections are behind the national economic recovery, state revenues are expected to remain depressed throughout the next fiscal year and probably sluggish for the next couple of years. So all the more important why our federal program gets the attention that it deserves and gets passed as it needs to be passed. 25 states have said they're cutting their general fund spending for transportation. Many states are looking at alternatives for funding revenue increases, and many are delaying projects. Maybe some of your states are included in that. Just this year, we've seen the value of highway and bridge contract awards be sort of a mixed bag across the country. We have roughly 22 states that have seen some decrease. Roughly 28 states are seeing some minor increases. in the value of those highway and bridge contract awards, but it's a mixed bag, and it varies very much depending on what states are doing with their budgets. Why do we want to focus so hard on this, and why is ARTBA actively pushing forward? Why do we do what we do, I guess? Well, you've got a construction market that's never going to be saturated. You know from working in your DOTs that there are multitudes of projects that just don't have the funding to get accomplished. That's not going to change. We have a growing population. We've got growing vehicle miles traveled. More and more people are out on the roads. More and more freight is clogging up and creating bottlenecks. And we need to find answers. We need to get solutions to these problems. And so we've been working hard in Washington to try to make that happen. Obviously, there's a difficult task ahead of us as we move forward throughout this political season and try to get this accomplished in the next 6 to 9 months. The reauthorization was extended through the end of this year. What happens after that is yet to be determined. But we can have an impact on it, and you all can help us in that. Obviously, because of that large unmet need, we think that there's even a greater opportunity for us to be successful here. We just need to make sure that our voice is heard in Washington, and we need you to help us in getting that accomplished. Some of the ways that we've been doing that and some of the ways that we've been advocating at ARPA have gone to a very modal-specific focus. We've created over the past couple of years a number of different modal councils, and this is where I would encourage you all as DOT members to take a look at some of the ways that you might be able to get involved with ARPA. We've created a Bridge Policy Promotion Council. We're having meetings here today, and Allison Winograd is up front here. Allison, I don't know if you want to just say hi, but Allison's facilitating our Bridge Policy Promotion Council meetings here this week, and she'll be around to talk about that with you. We've created a high-speed rail council. Obviously, there's been a great focus and degree of energy put toward that arena in the last few months. We're just getting the legs under a Ports and Waterways Council, and we hope to have an organizational meeting here in the coming months. If your DOTs are involved, or coastal, or even on the inland waterway types of issues, we'll be putting together a group that will deal with issues in that arena. Also, we have an Airports Council. In addition, we have regional teams that meet on a monthly basis where we put the industry together on the phone every month to talk about issues that are happening in states and across the country throughout these 4 regional councils. And so we'll have contractors, design firms, public officials, any number of folks on the phone to kind of talk and keep up to date and make sure everybody's up to speed on what's happening across the country. Specifically on the Bridge Policy Promotion Council, we put this together in 2008. It's really designed with a specific collective voice and a forum for people who are interested in growing the bridge market. ARPA saw and our members saw that there was a need for an increased presence in this arena and trying to force and push our federal government to take a closer look at some of the serious needs and issues surrounding the bridge market. You saw the statistic earlier about the number of deficient bridges in the country. There's hundreds of millions of dollars of bridge projects, billions of dollars of bridge projects that need to be accomplished. And so this group is working hard with the T&I committee in the House. We've gotten some major accomplishments, I guess you might say, already, in that we've been working with Representative Oberstar and his staff to get some things in that bill that are very important to the bridge sector. The BPPC's been very active. They have 7 different teams that are working toward trying to find policy initiatives, things like inspection issues, project delivery, new bridge technologies. Obviously, we have a group here today, and we'd encourage you, if you have a chance, to stop by. We'd love to have you at our Bridge Policy Promotion Council meeting here later today. We've been putting out marketing materials. We've been having all sorts of meetings, as I mentioned, on Capitol Hill, not just with folks in the House T&I, but others across Capitol Hill. We've been creating these action teams to really focus in and hone in on very narrow, specific issues in the bridge community and try to find ways that we can get more money for this arena. High-speed rail. President Obama has sort of made this his vision, his legacy program. You've seen a number of programs and projects get funded, and a large emphasis on this arena in the last few months. We expect this will continue. We do see a lot of conversation around this, and so we've put together a group that, much like the BPPC, is focused on high-speed rail initiatives. We just put together some comments that were forwarded to the Federal Rail Administration, and that was all created through the inertia and the energy of this group of high-speed rail stakeholders that wanted to have some input and involvement in that, and obviously public officials play an important role in that as owners. So we put together some policies and then just forwarded those on to the FRA. Ports and Waterways Council, we're hoping for an organizational meeting this summer. We've just been in the early recruitment stages of working with a number of our members to try to gauge their interest, and there is a lot of interest, obviously, with this sector, much like high-speed rail and with highways and bridges. There's an aging infrastructure and a growing need for expansion and increased funding in this arena. There's just not enough money to go around to accomplish the projects, and with the freight bottlenecks that we've experienced on the highways, more and more folks are hoping that they can have an opportunity to take that freight, move it to other modes, but with the infrastructure that's in place, there's just not going to be able to accomplish that as we move forward. So we need to be working more on this inland waterways and our ports in all sorts of issues, dredging and expanding these. With the Panama Canal project moving forward, we expect that will create even more demand for many of the ports, and you've already seen some solid private investment, but in trying to tie these modes together, it's important that we have our voice in this arena as well, and so we'll be working on this in the coming months. I mentioned the Airport Advisory Council. That is also something that we've been working very hard on to try to make sure that we combine the needs and the infrastructure funding solutions for all of these modes in a composite and in a comprehensive package. Our Transportation Officials Division, I talked about briefly at the beginning. Again, public sector employees from across the country, state DOTs, county engineers, MPO, folks that are part of transportation commissions, transportation authorities. We have a number of folks from some of the tolling authorities, that type of thing. Basically, membership in ARPA in this division is $185 per person. If you have a large group, if 10 or more people from your DOT would like to join, it's $160. So it's a very inexpensive membership and an opportunity for you to get access to the information and the advocacy efforts that we're doing at ARPA. I'd encourage you to take a look at it. I'll be around and I'll have business cards so you can reach out to me afterward, but we'd love to have you involved, love to get you involved in these modal councils to help us in the crafting of these policies. I know that other groups, and ASHTO and others, are working hard on these things as well, but we need to continue as an industry, as a group, come together in a collective way to try to force our federal legislators to actually get off their duffs. So, as engineers, as folks involved in this, you have a personal stake. Obviously, your licensure, the codes that you deal with, the environmental standards that you're required to accommodate, the planning decisions that are made, all of these actions and things happen, and it's important that you have your voice heard. If you want to accomplish the things that you want to accomplish and get the funding that you need for your state, you can do that by getting active and involved. We have out at our booth just across the way, we've got these cards that we put together to talk about the advocacy in particular. ARPA's very focused, obviously, with our staff, working with members of Congress, working with the regulatory agencies. But we're just one voice in this big picture of voices. We need all of you to get your voice into the mix as well. We hear from legislators all the time that they're not hearing from us. They're not hearing from the transportation sector. They don't hear this back at home. Well, here's your chance to make sure that they hear from you. We put together easy cards with a few talking points. It's a 1-800 number. You can call, you can leave a message, let folks know that you want them to move forward on this bill. You want them to get active. You want them to be persistent in their efforts to accomplish this authorization. If we're not doing this as an industry, then we're failing ourselves. We have every opportunity to stand up, speak loudly, get them to listen to us, and if we don't do it, I guess shame on us. So we're here to invite you to participate in that way. We've got mobilized grassroots DVDs that talk about our grassroots advocacy efforts, and you can take these DVDs to share with your staff. It's just a really quick walkthrough of how they can get involved and why their voice is so important in the mix of things. I just encourage you to take a look at that. Call the 800 number. If you want to get more active in drafting policy and get active in some of those councils and regional conference calls that I talked about, share with me your business card, and we'll be happy to get you active and interested in these things.